Oh,
We-
no. Oh, no. What did you drop?
This is the first time we've recorded this.
We're out of control.
We're out of
Container.
We
Nothing to see.
cannot go this long without filming.
No,
because
it's bad.
this is what happens.
Yeah.
It's actually quite
We should have finished hours ago.
Can we address the elephant in the room?
It's like a
That's
couple
not- that's not
that's been
a nice
away
thing
from
to
each
say.
other for too long and everybody's just super horny. But like,
That was the elephant in the
like
room.
horny.
Yeah, we're all really horny.
Yeah.
We are moments away from tearing this table apart.
the world's favorite polycule right here.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we all just climax together?
John Lennon
Climaction
suggested it.
surge.
That's the name of it.
Fucking brilliant.
Who's
Finishes.
No, that's not the question.
So, who goes? What did you say? No, go on.
Never mind.
No, go on.
Never mind.
No, go on.
We all want to hear it now.
No, we don't.
Yeah, you
I
do.
just, I
think I
just,
know
I
the
just
question.
don't think there's people in this room that
Climax.
You said who climax. I think you were going to ask who climaxes
yeah,
first, weren't
That's
you?
what I said.
Alex.
I know. Essentially, it's whoever the rest of us are really concentrating on, right?
I think
It's Alex who can get-
Because if not, that's really quite embarrassing. If everyone is, say, concentrating on Ben and Alex is the first one to go, Jesus, man.
I'll tell you exactly why. Tell you exactly why. It's because I'm the one
Don't tell us why.
who's already been
I'll
going.
tell you exactly why. Because you know that thing where you...
No. It's because I've already been going for 20 minutes before we've even begun.
I would hope that you'd come first if you were concentrating on me. I like the idea that, like,
No, I don't
No.
think...
You're
No, that
You're
was...
so
I'd like
appealing.
it. I feel like if I'm witnessed, I'm not great. Like,
I like to be able to observe.
During this discussion, because that's
No, can I tell you
none
why?
of them are doing
Can I
it.
tell you
None
why?
of them are doing
Because
it.
that genuinely, I'm being 100% serious. It would feel really, that would feel really aggressive. Whereas talking about Ben is like, it feels less intrusive.
I can be
think being a woman on the
physically
internet is more difficult,
attack.
and I
Yeah.
feel
You're
like,
so
and I
right
feel like
there.
people fantasizing
That's
about
so great.
jacking off Ben is like a real common thing.
I think I talk
Whereas
about
if you
I wasn't going to jack him off.
if you want me to get, really,
I don't
really
know.
into the
I-
weeds
like,
of what
leave it
it
to your
looks like, if
imagination. There are
everyone
other
piles in on a
things. There are
lady,
other
I can
ways.
do it. But
I'd say people talking about
Put the
people,
ball
this is
gag in.
content.
This is action.
people talking about jacking me off happens all the time on the internet. Honestly, just like
We know.
have a quick Google. It's there.
have a quick Google.
It's called
No, thank you.
fanfiction.net.
Someone have a quick Google.
Don't look down now.
Don't, please don't do
There are
that.
Reddit forums about
My
it.
hair is up, everyone. It's too hot in here.
It's so,
It's so
hot.
fucking
I think it's
warm.
fuel
I am
of some of
literally
this
physically You
fucking,
look like
like,
you've just walked out of
psychosis.
Grease the musical.
It's the most British thing.
Do I?
Yeah, the white T-shirt, sleeves
I don't think
rolled
this
up.
is very Greece. This is
David
very
Beckham.
David Beckham
David
signing for Real Madrid.
Which is what you've always wanted. That was always
No,
the goal,
I'm looking
right?
for Antoine Griezmann. I'm looking.
Oh,
for
I thought we were doing Beckham Real Madrid.
This is not about
well,
the
I mean, if he's on the table and we're all focusing on him, I'd
Harry.
absolutely do it.
Harry,
I mean-
my favourite part of the episode. Sorry, I just feel
We
like
do need to-
we need
yeah,
to
we
focus
do
on
need-
what the episode is because I feel like otherwise we will get distracted.
Start from the
Well,
We
no,
don't wanna
we
get
promised to
distracted.
take Team Double Jump out for drinks, and now it's like 7 p.m. and they're out there going, "Oh my god, we would really like to go for a drink," and
Yeah.
you guys are talking about who you'd make come first.
No.
Yeah. No,
Well,
I
we
think
know
it's,
that we've
it's
already said
valuable
that.
time, but we do need to move on.
Okay, I'm going to roll this and see who would. I rolled a 15.
What does it mean?
Alex,
Aoife.
What?
Aoife comes first.
I don't know. I don't know what the
Roll
answer
the
was.
15 and that plus full
Comes first
modifier.
for what? For treatment or comes?
Likely.
So my favourite thing about this episode, my favourite thing about this episode was the ways in which we had genuinely good improvisation, but jumped out of the main. Remember, like we wanted to at all points be ridiculous, but actually,
No, you did.
wanted to be ridiculous.
no. I would say that we have this energy through the entirety of the day, but still, we really wanted to focus on the story. So there were moments when we were being very serious. If it stays in,
I was serious
Of course
throughout.
it's safe.
No, what I think, if I may
You may.
jump on this, what I think Ben is saying is the energy that we have had as a gang in a holistic sense today has been very silly and very childish.
Yes. Yeah.
And that there are moments in which that childishness really broke through in lovely ways into the episode. But actually, we also managed to
We had a
have
fucking
some
funeral, basically.
have a funeral and have some really big story moments.
We had a nice party for Parvis. I thought it was lovely. I
awake.
thought it was.
yeah, we painted on some
Oh, I
walls.
thought you just said he was awake.
He was awake. He's alive.
awake.
None of
He
you
wasn't
thought to
dead,
speak.
guys.
None of you thought to speak to him the entire time.
No one-
He's an old
no
man.
rolled
He's asleep.
perception.
Yeah.
None of you rolled.
This was an interesting prep-wise for me because,
You got nothing.
well, kinda. I kind of can't really.
Wow.
So I have. I'll tell you what I have written down. I have Celandine's info, and I have 4 bullet points. Nox sent somnium supplies to Lode, where they were used to poison the water supply and neutralise the garden population. The Gloam have been infiltrating it for months. She's not sure how they were getting into the city. Parvis' body is in his cell, wrapped in his cloak. Celandine hadn't wanted anyone else to touch him, so she locked the cell and took the key for herself. She's wearing it around her neck. Another one that you didn't ask her about. And she removes her mask. Her white hair is a wig attached to the skull. I didn't say that. That's annoying. And her skin is yellow. It appears pink due to some kind of stain or makeup.
Can you also say how things could have went?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's interesting.
So I have a little skill check called Convincing the Children.
Oh, yeah.
I had this, I was very reluctant to call for a check at all after, go on.
Don't laugh at that.
Just never say that sentence out loud outside of this space. I have a skill check called Convincing the Children. Just
Teachers should have that.
Teachers convince the children.
yeah. Just don't you ever say it outside.
Now you're making Alex
just out
feel
and
bad
about.
for bringing it up, because now you're making Alex feel
Alex
like he was the only one that thought it was
villain.
dirty.
Alex is a villain baddie, a nasty baddie villain.
I'm a nasty
Everything's dirty in this room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not your feet,
sorry,
though, they're
Convincing the
clean.
They're
Children.
lovely.
So you got, I think, a 21 or a 22.
22.
And did,
Really fast.
you rolled with advantage, right?
Can
And I
drink, Your
think,
Honour.
did Celandine allow you to add a d4 because she cast guidance? So,
I rolled, so I have, what was it, persuasion?
persuasion, yeah.
So I rolled an 8.
Oh, and you haven't, with
Plus 10.
advantage?
Yes. I rolled a
Jesus,
5 and an 8.
Wow, you rolled
You're
really
pretty good at
badly.
rolling dice.
Because the part of the problem with stuff like that is it's such a story moment, and it's something that's so. What you said was so beautiful, and I thought it was really. I think I've said this before. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit distracted by the heat, but there's this theory that we handle charisma checks the wrong way round. That really, with everything else, you say, I want to see if I can scale that wall, and I say, roll me in athletics or acrobatics, and then you fail or succeed, and then you or I narrate how you do
yes, I
it.
see what you
Whereas
mean.
with persuasion, deception, particularly, you do the
the
role
thing
play,
and then roll.
and then it turns out it might have been shit. And I don't like the feeling of asking you to roll. I considered you know if you go back and watch the episode, I paused for quite a while. It's because I'm thinking, do I just get rid of this role because it was the right thing to say? It felt like tangibly the right thing to say and the right tone to strike. And so if you then roll a nat 1 and I'm like, actually it was rubbish, then it kind of undermines everything that you've already done as a role player.
It's fucking superb.
It was
No, exactly. So
was,
this is
yeah,
so this
really
is my point. So I kind of ummed and ahed with even having you roll at all, but in the end, that guidance from Celandine took you to a 21.
22.
22. You should have got a 4 on the D4. So the DC to convince them was a 20. The DC to calm them was a 15. And the DC to barely prevent a riot was 10.
that shillelagh might have been coming in clutch.
Yeah, and
I
so
really think there was. I thought we would just be like, it'd be good.
Oh,
how do you know?
Would've
So
gone
how do you
different.
no? Because
No,
essentially,
their glorious leader had just been
exactly,
slaughtered.
exactly. Like
He's a shroom boy.
I know, but they
they
don't
didn't
know
know
that.
know that. They just turned
People
up.
don't get over that.
9 years
you know.
of being told one thing. You're not going to suddenly
No.
be like, okay, then I guess that was all bullshit.
But it's nice because I feel like
Sunken
as
cost
a DM, you didn't take that mechanic out, but you gave us enough opportunities to try and make it succeed. But it was still in there because you can't fuck with the dice.
No, exactly. And but the problem is at the point at which I call for the roll, I have to be able to deal with the result of the roll, even if it's a nat 1. So then I have, in the event of, this is another thing I've written down. In the event of a failure, the children will rush the party, and Celandine, they will need to escape rather than fight. Celandine will not harm the children. She sees her death as a kind of spiritual penance. So essentially, she would have just
Still been blighted.
sort of stood there and let them tear
us
her
alive.
apart, really, and you
Yeah.
had to get the fuck out.
God,
of
so it
Dodge.
could have gone really bad.
Could have gone really bad, yeah. And I think because the stakes were high, right? Because as you say, this is their god that's just been killed, or at least their prophet. And even within that, within everything that was said, it wasn't until like Celandine never names him. Celandine never says like Nox was wrong, Vigil was wrong. She just sort of skirted around it and said, look, here's how we're going to move forward.
Neither did Dolly, to be fair.
No, exactly. And then we were into. I mean, we were around the table all together after episode 32, I think, weren't we? Didn't we do an action surge where we were all around? Yeah, we did an action surge. And before
Sorry,
that, we
yes,
did the
because
split
the Actions of It's
action
Just Gone
surge.
Live was the split one. So 31 has just gone live, which was split. Or it goes live tomorrow, technically, on the day of filming.
Wasn't it 32 though? Where one of us had to leave. For
I had
action
to.
service?
That was it. We weren't all together because Alex had to
to
leave.
Go somewhere.
Probably flying somewhere with the way you
Yeah.
the last couple of months for you.
Yeah.
But actually, for me, I was saying this, I think, when we were walking back, it was so nice to be back around the table watching Aoife
Stop it now.
have a moment. Aoife's had some incredible story beats. I've not been present for any of them.
Yeah.
And it was so nice to be here watching Aoife have that speech and be like, God, I've missed this. Because I'm wandering back and going, God, I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, we can reflect kind of at this point because I think this is one of the most tangible ends to an episode in which it's like, and we finished that area and we are moving, now you're fast traveling to the next one.
You were very clear about that at the end of this episode. You were like, and the gates closed
Last
and you're
thing.
heading towards the Mother Forest. You were like, and that is that arc done. And now next arc.
Because now we're moving forward, and we're moving forward to a place that is. I think I'd be happy maybe to be a little bit more loose with it, were it not the case that we're moving into what feels like really important storytelling for I.
Yeah.
I think you're jumping in here, I think, with everything that has more of a slow build, but actually we're jumping in quite late into that.
You are. Like normally if you're finishing, so say for example, you've finished you've finished Elowyn's moment with her family. Well, the next time you actually get somewhere truly significant is the Sanctum.
Yeah.
You have Yannick, and you have Vale, and you have the Salt Road, and you have Seascale. And actually, Seascale, we have the emergence of the Wasp and Yilda. But really, in terms of there's a long period in between, and then we finish that moment, which feels like not far from the end of Kel's story, because we know so little about Kel's story in a sense.
We were saying that.
Or we haven't done as much of Kel's story. Then you have all of Alvelion, and you have the caves of themselves, and then you have the beginning of the so there's normally a big gap, whereas I think you kind of broadly speaking know where you're going.
This will come in quite hot. Like genuinely, we're going through, we know exactly where we're going and what for, and we kind of already know that it's in quite a dangerous predicament.
Which is why it was important for me when I look back on the first half of the Forests arc that I's story feels like the B plot. Because often you don't have a B plot. There isn't really a B plot in Elowyn's story. There became one in the sort of emotional interplay between party members, but there wasn't like a formal B plot that I'm feeding. Whereas here, we're sort of shining a light on Dolly, and I is like on the edge of frame, and now we're kind of panning over to I, and Dolly is on the edge of frame because this is still part of Dolly's story,
and really well handled, by the way, between the three of you, between DM and players as well.
Yeah.
Because everyone
thank you,
feels like
Alex,
everyone had the space to like let everyone have those moments and
I
step
think
back.
Thank you, Alex, for being so.
The dice also dictated a lot of that too.
Totally for being respectful of and patient with that process, because I think it would have been. Maybe an earlier I would have gone, well, we need to go. And I think it's partly confidence in the table and in me or whatever, and confidence in yourself as a player to be like, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. I haven't set there isn't an egg timer underneath the table here, and if the sands run out, then turns out everyone dies.
Especially since this little sideline actually ended up in a significant loss.
Yeah, which wasn't the plan.
Kind of was it not?
No, Parvis wasn't meant to. Parvis wasn't originally going to die.
So what happened? What was it? A role?
We
Was
left
it
him behind.
something?
We left him.
Well,
Or was it us?
Oh yeah, because we can
And
really
then the
talk about
DM
this.
We can
decided-
really get into this now.
Yeah, so I felt like for me there was this image that I had of reaching themselves, and finding them at some point, and it could be soon or it could take long. I don't want to, but with Parvis and I, the old kobold world and the new kobold world. And then I was like, I'm not sure Parvis needs to be there. I think it's nice if he is, but what can he say that? What I do then is I make I's relationship with himself the second most interesting kobold relationship with himself in the room. So I was like, oh. Well, should it happen, I wouldn't hate it. And then when you decided to make your way in and give yourselves, not give yourselves over, but essentially present yourselves in Haven, what I didn't want to do was kidnap Parvis and have him dragged away, because we've done that already and it's boring to make him captured off screen again, because we've already done that once. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, if I can capture them all, then I know which... I have an easy kill. So I think sometimes death needs to visit a table in like a really tangible way.
And it rarely does
And
this
it,
table.
and it rarely does. You know, you guys haven't lost a character. And so when we have... And it was like why I was pleased for you, but disappointed from a story point of view that all the brothers survived the battle for House Grenwood.
We've talked about this, haven't we?
Yeah,
Every time.
because it feels a little bit like, you know, you get to the end of Lord of the Rings and you're like, one of the hobbits should have died, man. I don't believe that Merry and Pippin and Sam like all survived. I understand Frodo kind of has to, but also wouldn't it be kind of amazing if he died while, you know, if he fell with Gollum? Spoilers for Lord of the Rings.
Wasn't it?
But I don't necessarily believe that Pippin can survive the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and I don't necessarily believe that Merry can survive the
killed
Battle
Morgan.
of Pelennor Fields. So Morgan was always going to be someone who you would probably need to kill. But that was as close as I'd managed to get, was to a death that felt meaningful. Grawnoth had a bit of something, but we were still quite early in the campaign.
Yeah.
Jasmine, who you only met once, is killed off screen. Casper and Juno and Goth are killed off screen.
Vim.
Killed us.
Vim killed off screen.
Well, actually, Juno was taken
that's
away.
right. Oh, yeah, you don't know what's
No.
Yeah.
I can't wait for
Even people like Petra killed off screen.
Yes.
A tiefling, you know, a drink of wine and look at the moon. She was killed off
Petra's
screen.
was a really interesting one.
So I'm kind of going, there is actually a way of me bringing death into the thing. And also you're kind of, sorry, I'm talking so much at this point. This is such a monologue. Is this still in?
No, this is wonderful because, again, you're the only person that's done all of the last few episodes.
So you're then sort of going, you're making a kind of calculation and going, what do I gain from keeping Parvis here? Well, I gain some cantrips in combat. I gain Spare the Dying, which might be useful because he has Spare the Dying as a cantrip. I gain a guide if I need one, but at this point we've established that I can follow the trail just as well as Parvis. And I gain a mediator if there's interparty conflict. Well, I feel like we're moving past interparty conflict now in big ways. You're all snippy at each other still, but we're snippy when we play the altars. So, like, you know, we're just a snippy
You can be with people that you're that close to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I think is really interesting is in the entire run-up to the idea in my head of this interaction with themselves, I at no point considered Parvis dying. And at no point did it ever occur to me, until you said it just then, and you are right, that if I and Parvis were to turn up in front of themselves, I and themselves would be the second most interesting
headline is
relationship.
Parvis and I.
But at no point did that. And now when you say it, I go, fuck, that
Because we
really
feel it on
makes
an emotional
sense.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not thinking about it from that point of view. We're
narrative.
thinking
Yeah.
about how we would feel as players and characters. So why would you?
But you're right in that, because I was just fully focused on, I want to get Parvis to themselves. I want to get like.
Then it just kind of worked out the way it worked out. Like when you were trying to unlock the cells, I said you could do a certain amount of things, and I think you rolled for how many things you could do, and there wasn't enough time to unlock Parvis's cell. Like you were one number short on the die of how many things you could do, and at that point, I'm kind of going, Parvis totally understands this. Parvis also understands that Dolly is up there, and he is the thing that will stop Dolly getting killed because he'll be killed first. He would know this. He would know. He would recognise the importance of keeping Dolly alive. He also is 1,000 years old.
It's the
And he's
classic.
passed the torch. It's not literally. You're kind of the Antiqua of the kobolds.
Oh my
in
God.
my head.
Put it on your LinkedIn.
You're kind of at this point the world guide for the kobolds.
Yeah.
Because you're the only living kobold who's seen it.
Yeah.
And so, what function narratively does Parvis fulfill? a secondary or tertiary one? And how would Parvis feel about the idea of self-sacrifice? Well, in the same way that Celandine would have stood there and taken the hit for you to get out, I think Parvis would have a sense of there's this there's this thing that, the idea that in fantasy that elves are always looking at humans and being like, goodness me, aren't you in a hurry? Do you not realise that 50 years is not very long because they live for however bloody long? And Parvis is a bit like that, going, if I die, he's a bit Jean Valjean, bring him home. He's a bit like, if I die, let me, because what my race is sort of run here. I'm all right with that. And the speech, which, you don't have to go back and watch it, but if you did, it's a really defiant speech. Mm-hmm. It's not a speech of someone who is scared. He said, let me see
your choice to not say that. I thought was amazing. I just loved it.
Well, because I remember, in the moment as well, being like, should I be doing more to save him? But there really wasn't. I didn't see anything I could do. Because as far as I was concerned, you guys could be wheeled up next. Yeah.
Because you didn't know, I'm guessing, you didn't know, you hadn't been told that we had escaped.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
So at the end of his sort of piece, he says, I journey now into the wherever comes next, and I am unafraid. I am as old as this land, as old as the earth and the sky and the mushroom. I have lived through bud and bloom and flower and fruit and fall. I fear neither the dark nor the colour that may lie beyond it. I pray that whatever of the virtuous still remains in your hearts may give you strength. They loved you, flawed as they were and flawed as you are. I have no more words. So he's like, I did it.
You've done it. Completed it, mate.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
So that was why Parvis died. 20 minutes in.
I like that that moment in the cell feels like that classic moment of the old wise master who sees the thing 20 minutes before everyone else, and then by the time it eventually happens, they're like, now you understand. Now you get it. It's that moment. I like that.
So, to get back really more to this episode, we had a sort of funeral wake. It was really interesting because we hadn't discussed. Sometimes, very occasionally, one of you will come to me and say, I would like to have a moment where I pull this other player for a conversation.
I did that today because I was like, I need to for this thing to happen. I'm sorry.
It's totally lovely, and we'll carry on. In terms of what are the burial traditions of kobolds, we hadn't had that conversation.
I still don't think it's that.
Ah, interesting.
So my feeling is the tradition is to take the kobold. So first of all, I have a thought in my head that not every kobold gets one because many kobold would be out on an expedition or something and they're never found. Their body is out and they're out on a hunting thing, they're on a scouting thing and they never make it home.
Yeah.
So it's not just like an out and out, it always happens for everyone. But if it's a kobold whose body is there, the funeral pyre is built in the hearth, and then, for example, the tribe that I comes from, with the hundreds, thousands, however many holes in the rock, like the funeral pyre is built, and then that goes up and it filters out, right? And there's that. So I wanted to kind of, in my mind, combine that with the sense of we can't do this to something that is halfway between a kobold and a god. In my mind, it was like there's got to be more reverence for it, but also if Parvis isn't going to be there, I at least need to see themselves look at Parvis.
Yes.
So I didn't want that, but I was like, okay, so therefore, if I have in my head this idea of this funeral pyre in which they go into their place where the stories are told, and they send this person back out, and their kind of ashes go up and fly out and become one with what is a small extension of that, and it's the idea of, okay, let's go to the place where Parvis was laid, and so I didn't, because I wouldn't know where Parvis was actually just straight up killed, right? No. So I was going, okay, this is the closest thing. This cell is the closest thing here to a cave.
Yeah.
So it made sense to go back to that place and go, all right, I'm going to change the meaning of this place now as not being just the place where Parvis's body was put and was, he was held captive and then stored. It's now a symbolic celebration of his life. And
also, when you were in the caves of themselves underneath Alvelion, you found a small hearth which told the story of themselves all over the walls. So it's like, although themselves is not dead in that place, it's almost like a mausoleum for themselves, which is clearly not a common thing for kobolds to do, and it's kind of wonderful that now he has one.
It was the joy that he got seeing.
Celandine isn't going to let... That's going to stay as that forever. There is no way, while Celandine is in charge here, she's ever going to let anyone clean the walls and go into that cell.
I particularly love that you made the effort to say that he wasn't sad doing it either.
Yeah.
Because that, it put me in mind of like Irish Wakes, for example, where it is all about celebration of that person's life rather than being sad that they're gone.
Yeah.
And like it just means that it gave us space to have silly memories on as well as the more somber kind of like bits that we had, and I think it was a really lovely scrapbook of moments that we each had with Parvis.
Yeah,
that's the whole episode though. The whole episode could have been unbelievably somber.
Yeah,
because there was so much heavy stuff had happened. This entire episode could have felt like a lead weight. Really story interesting, great moments, but could have just been nothing but somber and heavy.
It's why I knew I wanted to take a break once you went to sleep, because I wanted to get all the way through the day of remembrance.
Yeah.
So that then when we came back, we were starting with leveling up, new exciting things and a fresh day. Because otherwise you can go, and as you go to head up for drinks, we'll take a little break and then come back and be like, so you're having drinks and you've just been down the thing. And
what's interesting.
You needed something to kind of break the tension.
What's interesting is in that moment and in that, the combination of that moment in the cell and there being the kind of the sense of celebration and joy and the happiness of it, and then the break, I very much in my head was like, I want to wake up tomorrow a bit different than he was the day before. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I want him to do a few silly things or like just have a little bit of jokiness to him in a way that wasn't just going, I'm going to make some jokes, but the character, not the me, proactively trying to just enjoy the little things.
And also that you have a greater understanding of it, or a more refined understanding of it than you can assume every other kobold. But you still come from a collectivist society where one death probably isn't treated that importantly. Like, you're treated with respect, but you don't... We've talked about the parentage thing, haven't we? Have we ever talked about that?
Yeah, like there's like you obviously have the...
You have parents, but you don't...
It's not...
You don't necessarily know who they are.
Yeah.
Like,
raised by a village, right?
You're just raised by everyone, and you're not just a hunter or a gatherer or a weaver or a storyteller or a carer for the sick, or you're sort of doing what you need all the time. So it's all about like what does the group need in this part of the group to do today, and therefore the idea of one part of that dying, it's like it's very sad, but Parvis is unusual because he had an identity, and he had a name.
Yeah, I think as well that was part of what the character, maybe the me, like struggle with in the thing of feeling like I wasn't able to avenge the death was the sense of the marrying of I beginning to have a sense of solo identity, of learning from his tribe, his new tribe, that you can have a solo identity while still being
in service to a greater whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So therefore it was a sense of, hold on, Parvis was my... Do you know what I mean? There was that sort of like
Parvis
feeling
was
of...
my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So there was that like everyone here knew and was friends with Parvis, but like it was like Parvis felt like mine.
Yeah.
And I think that was like I kind of struggling with that. And I think then having the funeral, having that sense of, as you say, collectivism.
And having that moment where Elwyn was like, look,
We as friends had spoken after episode 32.
Yeah.
Because I was like, first of all, I think we said this out there. I was like, shit, did Alex say something about how he wanted to do something at the table and I didn't hear it, and I just fucking went, and I
Yeah.
was like, and I roll, and I'll action surge, and,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my God, did I jest? So we spoke actually a fair bit about it, and
Yeah.
I was like, we'll go to a table for 33, and we'll see how it goes. But that was 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it was kind of...
Which is
we were speaking
probably
that night pretty
probably a
much.
good
thing.
thing,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
But I thought it was lovely that you all had that you were also kind of like your thoughts, your moments of reflection, and
that
then
was lovely. Thank you
then
for
your
that.
it was fun, and then what did you choose to paint? I thought was really lovely. There's one thing that I want to talk about before we get into the sort of second half of the episode, which is the kind of whole Nox journey and the Dolly. I say the Dolly journey. Really, let's not give him ownership of it. Then the Dolly's relationship with Nox, and I thought taking on his mantle and getting those memories was really interesting. I love Mantle of Whispers. It's such a cool ability.
It's fun.
How do you? I mean, you don't. The answer can be I don't really. I'm just playing. But like, how do you reflect on the whole Nox thing now, and the kind of the arc that the very isolating process that you've been through in the last sort of 3 to 4 episodes?
I think it's been a period of intense growth for her, because it is something that has kind of just fueled her for the last 9 years, just finding this person and making them tell the truth. And that was the one thing that was. I mean, it's a nice narratively. The dice were like refusing to let her get that one bit of insight from him for the longest time. But I think, like I said, when we were reflecting, it was like, is that what I wanted? Did I not already? Did I have that already? And I mean, obviously, she knew he was a piece of shit. She knew from the moment, like, they turned up, he was a piece of shit. And, like, at every opportunity, he was just proving what she already knew. So it's kind of like, it was closure in a way, but, like, and I think the Nat one was actually really nice in that sense as well. It's like, I don't fucking need to do this.
Yeah.
I don't fucking need it.
Yeah.
Like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give him anything more.
No.
But it was really fun. Like, I think it was really nice to have, that episode to kind of decompress and
So good.
talk to
I
everybody
think
else.
it was very necessary as well. Like, we've been in such action mode the entire time. Like, things happen, and that's brilliant. We've had people in the room and out the room, and in the room and out the room. I will respect the fact that you were out of the room for this moment, because on another day I'd love to have talked about it, because I thought there's a moment in there that was a really surprise to me, and it was just very beautiful.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, it's not a secret. It doesn't do anything.
great.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, we can talk about what you've taken. Right?
Yes, how about that instead?
So we can talk about the things that you did while you all are leveling up. So we have Shadow Touched, the feat Shadow Touched, and then Elowin has taken.
Very touched. Which is why I wanted to talk to Radiant. And again, talking about giving people space at the table, I had obviously started to mention it, and Alex was very aware that I sort of had a reason why I wanted to be the one to take that conversation through. So I took Fey Touched, which allows me to choose one leveled spell from the School of Divination or Enchantment of Magic. You always have that spell and Misty Step prepared.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Once per long rest, you can cast each of these spells without experience. I haven't got any spell slots.
Yeah.
So essentially, Elowin essentially took Radiant to one side and was like, look, I can do 2 things, my sword and my dagger. I can't protect you if I can't get to you. Teach me how to Misty Step.
Wow.
Because I just need to get to you.
Yeah. So Elowin knows how to Misty Step.
Yes.
You're a great teacher.
Thanks.
You're weird, but you're a very good
really
teacher.
weird today, like in a really good way. Radiant was very weird today.
You're drowning.
I think the one thing for Radiant that every conversation that Radiant had one-on-one, I say every, I think there's 2 major ones. It was Dolly and Elowin, who obviously you weren't in the room for my conversation with him. We both had the same thing. You've got to stop behaving like this in fight.
Yeah.
You've got to stop throwing yourself in danger.
Yeah. He now has the staff of defence, so he'll be even fucking brave.
Yeah, but it doesn't use it for anything. But it was when you had that same conversation, we were in the room, I was like, it's 2 of us now. Like, it's like, but you've got to stop.
Yeah. What do you? Unless anyone doesn't want to say what bits that they've taken.
Is it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
you can say whatever you'd like to.
Yeah,
You don't
I
have
don't
to
wanna,
say
like-
anything.
I haven't taken an ability score improvement.
Right. So
I
you
took a feat.
You took a feat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to say
And
anything.
I've got some really cool spells as well, which we'll talk about.
I think your stuff should emerge.
Radiants
Yeah.
usually do just as and when they're needed.
Yeah, because I've just remembered what you've done.
just like I started off building a wizard based on what was probably the best way to build a wizard. You go online, you go, these are the best spells to go and pick for a wizard. I don't do that anymore. I just go, what's cool and what's narratively cool, and there is a story emerging with how he's developing, and so I'm picking spells and feats and things based on what I think the narrative is spinning.
Yeah.
And so I have picked spells that are very narratively focused and seem to be in line with the way that I play him in battle, also just how he is developing as a person in the story. And I think it's really great that the spells kind of speak for themselves.
That's interesting because that exactly what you're describing. The reason I took Shadow Touched was because it would allow me to open up a new spell slot at level 2, and I wanted to choose a spell slot that would if I wanted to use it, would stop me from always being hidden in the shadows.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it's exactly that thing of going, I can do that, cool, but what feels cool in the moment and what is going to be fun to play and I'm going to enjoy, and it's exactly that. It's that, yeah.
Mine's just finding different ways of casting spells. I was kind of bored with my spells, so I just kind of changed them up, and it feels like the right time to do that. And actually, I've been using some ones all the time, and I went, which ones am I using? What am I not? Sub in some other ones and actually be quite bold with my choices.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Did you take what I think you took that we were talking about last night then?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it to myself for now
Yeah.
for the public because I'd like it to be a surprise when it does happen. But I did up my charisma score by 1.
Yeah, you don't
So
have
I've gone from a -1 to
Monster.
0.
You've now also got the most
love
health,
it.
which I hate.
Yeah, I've got 68 health.
Nice.
And I thought the plant growth thing again. That was something that in the gap again. This is you in the break. You said, "Oh, just so you know, is this possible? This is what I'd like to try and do about the plant growth thing," and I thought it was a really, really Kel idea,
Yeah.
like a really lovely thing. And I think there's something. I mean, obviously, there's something very druidic about it, and you're often not the druidiest druid in a certain sense. Like you use Hank much more than you use Wild Shape, and that's not to say one is better than the other. But I think when a lot of people think of druids, they think of essentially they kind of think of what did I call her? Not Matt. Marielle.
Marielle.
They think of like essentially I'm just. Because she did not exist, obviously, until you said you wanted to look for her, and then you rolled well. Well, rolled badly and then rolled well. But essentially, like in The Hobbit, like Radagast's house in The Hobbit, where it's around a tree and he's got bird shit all over. That's what people think of when they think of a druid. And and Kel in many ways is not that. In some ways he is, but in many ways he isn't.
Yeah.
And so to do something that is so druidic, I just thought was a really lovely...
it's one of those spells. One of the things, I don't know if this is true for other classes, but it annoys the fuck out of me that they force you to take certain spells. So,
okay, so you
and
get from
plant
your
growth is
circle.
one of those. Yeah. So, well, I don't remember if it's the circle or if it's just the class, but at certain levels you get spells, and then you're forced to take certain spells, and you can't change them out. They're always prepared, and they're always in your list, and I think that's really annoying, and it's a mechanic I would change if I could, because like plant growth, it was great this episode, but it's practically useless in any other context.
But it doesn't count towards your known spells.
Yes, well, it counts towards my prepared spells because it's always prepared. So if I can prepare 7 spells,
It doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day.
So for example...
So there are additional spells. I'm literally looking at the writing of it now. Once you gain access to one of these spells, you always have it prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day.
okay, well, I would rather be able to change it out, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because there are other
feel like
spells.
it's
But then
you're
essentially
taking something from me,
It's a
yeah.
freebie.
It's a freebie.
It's not
So
taking
for
anything
example,
Yeah.
here with now the reason I can now use invisibility, but it's not going to be in my slot, so therefore I haven't got it in my prepared spells because I know it's just always prepared. So therefore, when you're on your D&D Beyond, for example, you can just remove that from your prepared spells because it's prepared.
Like the amazing
Anyway.
stuff that you
But
have. For example, you have Burning Hands, Cure Wounds, Scorching Ray, and Revivify that you don't ever have to prepare.
Yeah.
You just get
Yes,
them
man.
free,
Wow.
and then you get to pick a node of
And now with
spells.
no
But those
minuses
don't have to
and
be in
most
your
health.
prepared slot on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, they do.
No,
they don't
No,
count.
no.
They don't
count.
count as
So
part
they
of
are
your
already
spell.
prepared.
What I'm saying is that when I go in to manage my spells, I cannot remove those spells from my prepared spells.
No, you can't, because they are constantly prepared, and then you have X amount of slots.
Yeah.
In addition to which you have these immovable ones. But even if you could remove them, you wouldn't gain more slots. You have a finite amount of slots per.
No, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'm just sometimes I'm like, there are other things I would
Don't
like
want
to
these free
plug-
things.
Yes, I'm just like, there's one at level
It's a goodie
4,
bag
and I'm
I
like,
don't want.
Yeah.
that's a lovely spell if you're in a particular situation.
Yeah.
Can't delete it.
No, you
can't
You
unprepare.
can't unprepare. It's just there all the time.
Right.
But I think
Boo.
the other thing you have as a druid is you have the ability to change your spells every long rest. I think, which most people can't do. It's very, very flexible. Clerics can do it. And I think paladins, although I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I think paladins can do that too.
But yeah, we came back and you sort of did a little bit of like cozy gaming, where you just sort of grew some crops and
That's so nice.
went
It was
out.
so cute.
Farmville.
Yeah, some farm.
With
It was
Harvest
fun to
Moon.
be able to use it that way.
Yeah.
Like ever since it was hoisted upon me,
Yeah.
I thought, how am I going to use this? When am I going to have an opportunity to sit for 8 hours
lovely,
and
though.
contemplate
The trees.
the trees?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I did.
And then Radiant got a shiny.
Shiny stuff.
Huzzah!
Fucking hell, Ben, be
Yeah.
pleased. You've wanted magic items for 2 years.
begging for
I
goodies.
love it, but
Shiny stuff.
I think it's very telling that
If I
the
start
moment,
complaining, do I get stuff?
I think it's the moment that I get it, everyone takes piss out of me for having it, which is very telling of the group. Like, I'm not allowed to have nice things, apparently.
Well, no, because you're a twat.
There you go. I try and do some good.
What did you do?
What did you do? Be
Pardon?
specific.
About
What?
the good.
What good have you done?
What good have you done?
What good have you done?
You're welcome. You're welcome. For
What
your
is that?
fey
Is that
touch.
after you were
You're
sticking
welcome
your
for
own
your
hand
fey
and then
touch.
grabbed
You
mine?
know what?
And the really nice conversation that we
For
had.
almost getting me killed. Yeah, thanks.
I saved your life.
Did you?
Yeah.
That, by the way, I thought that ended quite prickly. I don't know if people interpreted that, but I just
didn't
feel
feel
like you
prickly
two
to
didn't
me.
really.
Oh, we've had pricklier conversations.
No, but it feels like it wasn't like a let's hug it out. It was still like a
No, but I
okay.
think that's
Like I'm still like
no, but I
on-
think that's the best you can hope from Dolly in this situation. Like she's just fucking gotten over someone. Like
There's a lot.
it's a big fucking thing.
We have.
This is
it.
what I almost feel like it didn't kind of get.
We'll always
fully...
be like that, though. I did fucking betray her to because I have a reason for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Radiant has a very. What I really like is that you guys all seem to sort of, in ways that I think I would resist as a player. So this will sound like an insult, and I mean it as a compliment. I would be trying to force my character. I, as a player, try to force my character to grow out of their flaws, and you guys don't. Like, when Elwyn is still an example of when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So she'll still be like, even if she feels like she was wrong, she'll be like, look, I did it like that because it seemed like the sensible thing to do. I see that hurts you, and I'm sorry that it hurts you, but it was the right thing for me to do at the time. And Radian still has more. I don't mean this in like big ways, but he has more of himself that he could give, and he still chooses not to. Like there are ways that he could soften blows, and he knows how to do it, but he's still not doing it. And I think that's kind
It's
of
a choice.
yeah, and
Because I'm also aware we're
it's
level-
wonderful and infuriating in a really good way that like. We don't have to, like, character growth is not about smoothing all the edges out of your character and turning them into archetypal bland heroes. It's about making them heroes in this world and in the moments that they need to be heroic.
I also think that, like, with heroes, it's their flaws that ultimately make them strong. And I
Yeah.
actually think that, like, we're on episode 33.
Third of the way to the big century.
Yeah, we're a third of the way in as so much has happened, and we've still there were opportunities in our conversation probably to reveal more, but I was like, I don't think it's time. I think there are opportunities for characters to grow in different ways, and I certainly don't want to get to a point where I'm going, well, I've had one conversation with them and now I'm healed. I'm like, I feel like we're all trying to figure out that, and those differences of opinion and certainly the flaws that they clash against each other. I didn't expect Dolly to completely forgive
If
me.
it was anything else, but it is literally a fucking replay of the worst thing she's ever been through. So, like, to ask her to just be like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like, that's not, in my mind, that's not believable.
No, totally.
Yeah, and also, like,
totally agree with you.
Radiant believes that what he did was right, and ultimately for everyone. And he was like, "Well, I would have, as far as he was concerned, I would have died in that scenario, and you don't want me dead. So, it's that's what I did in that way. And I thought that you could protect yourself, and whether that's right or wrong, it's the choice that he made.
Well,
You can't
exactly.
really explain it any other way.
And I think she believes him, but at the same time, it's like, well, okay, I guess when the cards are dealt, like that's how it shakes out, because fundamentally she betrayed him first. She did.
Yeah.
And like, so it's kind of like, okay, well, fair enough. Like, I did that, so I deserve that you do it back. But if not for the conversation that they'd had immediately before you did what you did, because then it's like, oh, well, I thought we'd moved on from that, but I guess not. So now I have to be very careful.
I think what's difficult for reading is, well, the plan worked.
Yeah.
Yes.
It did work. The thing he wanted to do, as crazy as it was,
Yeah. And we didn't.
we didn't have anything else.
But he didn't have a plan when he said the thing. You know, we were at MCM when that episode went out, and so I had a lot of people come to the table being like, "Why did you do that?" A lot of people like wagging fingers.
Yes,
at me.
and because also I think I can say, because I don't think I said this on. Did I ever say this on an Action Search? That I reacted like a fan.
Yeah,
at
you
the
did say
table.
that.
Did
Yeah,
I
you
say
did,
that?
yeah.
And I was like, "What are you doing?
Mm.
Like, what are you gonna do?" Because
But
I
it had
didn't
some
know. I didn't
listening.
understand the plan, which was so great.
We had someone in the comments recently being like a little upset because I think when Ben was discussing the plan at the table, there was like a pause and he looked at you and someone's like, well, they're obviously talking and they're obviously planning all of this. And I was trying in the comments being like, no, I think Ben was just looking at Harry and Harry's going, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It really
No,
was
it's-
you
Yeah.
went so off piece.
But I didn't know where it was going to go. Also, I don't really care because I was like, well, it's a cool bit of drama, and I thought that's a neat little thing to do, and
Literally another option.
I think as well, a lot of those little looks are often, particularly I think, looking towards Harry, it's kind of like can I do it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that thing of like, it's a gauging of, you clearly know I'm about to try something and I can gauge from your reaction if I'm going to continue down this path, or if you're about to go
or
like,
if I'm going to go,
that's
what is?
not,
Or I
like-
think my thing is, what is? Do you tell me what you're trying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you tell me what you want to do, and I'll tell you what.
That's
is
what I
okay.
think so many glances any of us ever have at the table towards you is that. It's a gauging of
There's
that.
a remarkable lack of warning that any of us give anyone for any of the things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
That comes from trust.
It does.
Oh, yeah. This is
And recklessness.
And
Yeah.
a healthy dose of.
No, I won't say that. Let's roll some puns.
yeah.
What are you going to
What are we
say?
going to say?
You have to now. You can't
Do I
do
just roll
that.
dice?
No, you have to.
Go on.
No, I think it's no, actually. We gain nothing from me sharing.
Roly-poly with all dispel dice.
Okay, so what do you want me to do with the ones that I just did, which weren't
No,
dispelled?
don't.
Do I
No, you
dispose
can re-roll
of
them.
They
You gotta
don't
re-roll
count,
them.
baby.
Okay.
Sorry, honey.
So I can talk about my favourite bits. My favourite bits are all of you. My favourite bits from this episode. I really loved the moment of what are you thinking? What are you thinking about in this stillness around Parvis's body? I really like. It reminded me a little bit of Vale, when Dolly and Elowyn were in Vale listening to the song of the Tieflings. I like those moments. I think grief and sorrow is something that is at our table quite a lot, and I really like that because I think we're all quite brave with the things we bring to the table in those moments.
I think it's also, I like those moments because they generally tend to elicit very honest responses from us as players.
Yes.
Because we don't see them coming.
Yes, and also you don't have to share. You're not sharing them with. You're not actually sharing them with anyone. And then I also really enjoyed. I don't know. I really liked Marielle and Doug. I just thought Doug, the actor Doug Cockle, and his wife Marielle, and his almost the name of his wife. You know what? It was because I was going to say there's a character in Not Another D&D podcast called Maribel, and I really wanted to have Maribel at the table. But then she's such an important character, and also I don't own that character and that show. And to me, it felt like that would be a lovely homage, but it might not have read it as that. So I was like, what's near Maribel? So Marielle. But I really loved Kel. I think that is one of my favourite ever Doug episodes. It's one of my favourite ever Kel episodes. Like, you do that reflective, wise thing. Just really, really well. I really enjoy it. It's one of my, that and suddenly the most mechanically extraordinary fighter. You know, so like Ep 22.
Yeah.
These are like my favourite. I just really like being at a table with you particularly in these moments.
Yeah.
22.
It just felt like really wonderful. And then finally what was the other thing that I really liked? Oh, the first moment of Misty Step I really loved.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Who's feeling brave?
I am 92.
Okay.
Me.
decent.
92.
Oh! Don't let us down, Doug.
84.
Okay, not too bad.
84.
Right, Aoife.
She's got like 135.
100 exactly.
Oh my
92, 92, 84, 84.
I
That's
really,
wild.
really love
That is
that.
crazy.
That's like a perfectly symmetrical episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not really.
And I feel like what it does is it creates a little triangle with Wilson at the top after all of her efforts over the last few. She's the angel on the tree after all of the last.
Yeah.
She's been
Incredible
through.
stuff.
And we're the little
Yeah.
soldiers.
You are the little soldiers.
Yeah, we're just...
You're just soldiers and candles. Hey, okay, we're finished apparently. Everyone's fucking tidying. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on Action
It's a lot of
Surge.
dice now.
We will see you very soon for more adventures in the world of Reliquia.
D&D, baby!